If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Toews. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover. All right. Well, here we are. It's Wednesday, November 6th. What an exciting day for the United States of America and actually, I'm going to say for the world. For the world, we we don't generally talk politics, but I'm going to start this off because our God Squad is together here. And a few weeks ago, we had got together well, I think I shared a little bit about that, where we started at 5 o'clock and ended up at midnight. It was quite fun when you don't see each other for 6 months in person. You use the time when you have it. Anyway, that evening, because we are very governmental in a lot of and just so you know, it's Ed and Gina and Lana and myself that have ended up just intending regularly as things come up, and we enjoy it when we can be together. And so we knew the election was coming up, as it did yesterday, and so we agreed to, we went through the process of, we're going to set our intention. Well, immediately, not even a discussion, and we don't generally have discussions on politics and that unless the Lord leads us into something like that. Every single one of us had the same image at the same time. We saw President-elect Trump standing behind the podium in accepting the nomination, and it was absolutely, well, we just released that. We released that very simply to the Lord. And this morning, as I was woken up at about 1 o'clock, which is unusual because I generally get woken up at 3ish, and I thought, oh, I get up and thought I'm going to check, because by now we hadn't followed anything like what's to follow on these news programs. They're kind of goofy. So anyway, and the Lord said, no, I don't want you to turn anything on. It'll keep going. I want you to deal with you. And I went, okay. It's like being taken into the principal's office, it felt like, but it wasn't like that. And I said, what, Father, what is it? What are you saying? And he said, I want you to think, because he knew we were in this conversation on the election, didn't know what was going on. And he said, I want your heart right for whatever the result of this election is. And so then we're having this conversation on, well, we set this intention. He said, yes, that's right. He said, I want you to deal with your heart. And so for the next 2 hours, I'm dealing with my heart. Still don't know what's going on. And when you get to the point of having your heart fine-tuned, and it's not because of sin, it's because he wants you to grow up. He wanted me to grow up in something, and it was very exciting. I just about 3:30 went, I didn't check or anything, thought, you know what, Wednesdays I kind of like to be awake by 7 o'clock. I think I'll have another hour sleep, but got up, and then of course the results were there. And the first thing I saw was it was a rewind, because President Trump elect had given the speech standing in front of the flags. What we saw that night was just boom present. And I went and I thought, aren't we blessed to be part of our process? So I just want to go on record to say I am delighted, not just for the United States, but for the world, that there is a new beginning, as every election brings, and that we will continue to stand together. We're close as nations here in Canada. And I know there, some of us are from all over the world that listen here, but it's an important time globally. So how good is that we can be part of that, and not forget to hold our nations and our nation's leaders in our intention time, because it's a privilege. It's a absolutely beautiful privilege. So that was funny, God Squad, to wake up to that this morning. Yeah.
I knew it.
You're cheeky. Yes.
I did. I don't know. When we did our intention, my first thing that I wrote down just before we even did the intention, we were just sort of started talking about it, was Trump trumps.
There you go.
And
There,
that the end. Like
yeah,
what am I going to argue about with that?
I hear you. I
And so it is what it is. And so it wasn't surprising to me at all.
no.
Not because of anything, but just because we can be in such beautiful relationship with with our creator source,
Amen.
and it can be a tiny little two-worder.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
one
no,
word.
exactly.
That's exactly just one word. Trump trumps hello.
Yeah.
Add an s to the second word, and there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a very unique and intention time that as well. And
Mhm.
we've someday we may share some of the things that the Father's
Mhm.
taken us through in government, but different situations. Don't consider anything too small, too big, too wacky. Just stay tuned and
Mhm.
watch what happens when we do our part.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's a privilege anyway
it is a
to have
privilege.
been there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so tonight I would really, I'd like to, actually the title, Bobby's asking me for the titles to do this ahead of time, because he's the one that puts this on air for us. The title is Change Your Past to Create Your Future. And the description I gave him is, what if we can affect our present lives by actively engaging in the editing of past experiences and living from our future intention? So this lesson is going to invite you to explore the possibilities. It came out of a conversation that we were having in this, on our Wednesday nights here, and somebody said, can we change our past? Can we change our past? And the answer is yes, but it might not be exactly, um, you know, how you think about it. But the fact is, we we live on an artificial timeline. Time doesn't exist in essence from a beginning, just because we were born the state to the end. It is, that's sort of an artificial time that we use for our calculations, right? That's how, the same reason we have clocks and calendars and all that. And I guess it's also kind of handy so we can all be on the same page to arrive at the party at the same time. But time isn't exactly that. And we're learning by our intention that we can go into the future, right? We can establish ourselves in our desires. And in the same way, we can go into our memory and reestablish something that's already happened. That sounds odd, doesn't it? Like it um to say we can go back in our memory and we can reestablish something. But bear with me. So does that change the past? Well, it does in the way that it re-envisions how you were affected by it. Like you're not affected by it because you're in the past, such as actively going down the timeline to the event, but because you're thinking of it in the present, you give the thoughts and feelings and emotions room for it to exist in your now. I'm gonna be saying that in a bunch of different ways. So hang on with me here. It's like trauma victims will tell you that when they think of the details of the trauma, it's like it's happening right again and again in the present, and it can happen over and over. It's the same principle that athletes use. Like, we've talked about this before, where a gymnast you'll see them sitting on the floor, they'll be meditating, they'll be zoned into what they're doing, and you know what they're doing? They are playing over in their minds a detailed step by step by step what the routine that they are doing or going to be doing on the floor. And they do it until they get it perfect in their mind. And your mind and your body don't know the difference between what's happening in your imagination and what actually happens as you execute that. So I'd like to also recommend a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and it's a great read. And it acts sort of like a spiritual guide because it's centered on mindfulness and presence and the power of living fully in the present moment. It's all the things that we're activating in our lives presently, in our own spiritual practices, in Christ consciousness. The mind constantly seems to have our thoughts on the past or the future. And when they do, it creates an inner dialogue that actually can be distracting, can't it? If you just let your mind wander, and you think and that's a present of things that are happening or going to happen. If you're not intentional about your imagining that, it can be distracting. And so it is with the things that have happened in our past. If you have the trauma or situations that and I'm going to talk about one tonight that might help. And you think about those, and it's distracting again. You see, our ego is strongly engaged in this mental chatter, which is often tied to our identity, and it's tied to fears and unfulfilled desires, to shame, to frustration, to all those things. So recognizing when your mind is in control rather than the true essence of who you are, like I use the term sacred self, is activating. It's crucial first step to bring us into the reality of allowing us to be in the present moment, the now of our thoughts from the timeline past or the future. So we practice being present. We practice being in the moment. And this is a way of aligning our sacred or higher self. And it pulls us away from where our mind is going. That's what being present means. So true peace and happiness exists really only in the now. Life, whether you're thinking of the past or the intention that you're living from the future event, actually it always exists in now. So when something is happening, it's happening now. In a few minutes, it'll be happening now. When we focus our attention on the present, we break free from regrets of past and anxieties about the future. We're learning that we are the observer of our life, and that our life is not necessarily simply our thoughts, but our thoughts that receive energy from our feelings and emotions that are attached to them. And more importantly, we're learning that we are co-creating our life in Christ, with whom we live and move and have our being. We're learning that what we imagine, what we give our attention to, our thoughts to, it expands. And it expands in our thoughts before anything, before we even realize it. We're all familiar with Proverbs 4:23-27. Guard your thoughts, for out of them flow the issues of your spirit, your life. Elmer O. Lockhart Jr. is listening to him. It uses the concept, he calls it the pruning shears of revision, to make changes in our experiences of past trauma, or just plain what I call stinking thinking. So this person was saying that these pruning shears of revision will make changes in our experiences of past trauma. I know I'm repeating myself. And that is an important event to consider, actually, that we can actually make changes in our experiences of past trauma. It's a powerful, that statement, I loved it when I heard it, that it's a powerful metaphor for self-improvement through conscious revision of thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Like the pruning shears for a gardener, right? I keep saying I'm not a gardener. I'm changing that, because right now in my sunroom, I've got like dozens of little things that I'm rooting for the garden next year. So maybe I am a gardener. So pruning shears for a gardener is a sharp pair of scissors. They're generally larger than your kitchen shears or your sewing shears, and they're sharp enough to cut through layers and the harder, limbs of plants. And the revision in this metaphor is an invitation for us to re-envision something that may be in our present thought process, or something that we have actually experienced in the past. So when we learn to become the watcher of our own thoughts, not a victim of them, it's because we need to do that. As a man thinks, that's what we become. And our thoughts are the first step in the creation of our future desires. By observing our thoughts rather than immediately identifying with them, immediately sort of allowing our emotions to free fall, we realize that our thoughts don't always define who we are. And this practice helps create a gap between us and our thoughts to bring calm and clarity. So let's look at a situation. Let's just pretend you have a job that you like and that you're well suited for this job, but you have a boss that's really difficult. Now, this boss recognizes your ability and your gifting, but continually wants things to be his way. You've been there for years. You've earned many awards, yet you have got no recognition from this person for your work. And quite frankly, you're tired of the battle. Your ego may be involved in there, but this is what's happening. Now, you also had a situation where you spoke up and you stood your ground for a moral issue, and you were fired because of it. Imagine that happening in your past. Then years go on. But that whole scenario doesn't go away. Well, you forget about it for a while. You learn other things. You take another job. You're happy for the most part, but this little scenario is still back there. And sometimes it comes back and it bites you still in your present thought life. And sometimes it's affecting your confidence. If it isn't a present reality, this isn't a present reality, then it may be in your subconscious that surfaces very negatively with anger or frustration in certain present situations. It can be affecting your life at home, your friendships, in the job that you have now. So the question is, can you change your past? Like, suffering often arises from resistance, wanting things to be different than how they are. So one thing, if you're going to change something in your past, would be to embrace what is, like embrace it, but embrace it without judgment. Like that whole scenario, there's so many times I remember with one of my kids that he had a boss, right, that was very difficult, and was it wasn't a super problem, but it was, they just weren't coming together on some of the creative processes that needed to be talked about. And he said he'd have these before he goes to work. He has these in the shower, these conversations that are going on and on with this person. And I said, you better deal with this stuff that's going on in your mind, because at some point, if you don't, you're going to meet that person again and again and again. It's like people that have been in relationships with a person that's toxic or brings trauma to you, and you get out of that, but then you go into the exact same thing. That's the same thing, because it becomes a vicious circle. So when you have a situation, embrace it without judgment. You can't change the person, right? In that scenario, you can't change the boss. And that situation is past, but you can change you. And you can change what you consciously think. So go ahead, relive the situation, feel what you felt then, and guaranteed when you let those feelings come, it'll feel the same way as if it was happening now. You see, you've gone into your past, you're there, but you're now bringing it into your now. We're always in the now. When you do, take a step back and say, I know better, and embrace it without judgment. Now, take stock of what you're learning, because your ability to create, you have this ability to create by your imagination and your intention. So you have this situation that happened, it's playing in your mind like a movie, but you can become the screenwriter, the director, the producer, the leading man or the leading woman, the person of all the scenes. And you, in your mind, in your imagination, can create a new detailed scenario where, in this case, your boss puts his hand out to congratulates you for your efforts. In this movie, in this scenario, you can start to see and feel the place where you stood for righteousness and you were fired, but you can rewrite it so that the people come up to you and say, thank you for taking that stand, for shaking your hand, telling them what how much courage you had, maybe a hug. Stay in the rewrite until you can feel the gratitude. See, what you've just done is you've recognized the situation. You can't change it. It's already been done. But you can re-envision it. You can rewrite it, react it in your imagination, in your mind's eye, and you can stay in that imaginative role until it fosters an acceptance and an inner peace. And when you fully accept the new version of it, it becomes your present moment. So why is that important? Well, when you create the new present moment for it, what happens is you align with your life's natural flow, releasing any inner conflict. And from this place, if you allow your rewrite to become your now, you will feel very different. And many times, here's what happens. you will have some kind of confirmation of the miracle of this reconstruction, because you might meet that person that you had all the problems with, and there will be no conflict. You'll be able to put out your hand, and you might even hear amazing kind words that are affirming you where you weren't affirmed. You'll meet some of these people that will remember what you stood for, and how that gratitude shifted something. And you see, the people that contributed to your past now have no hold on your now, have no hold on your present. And this is the concept of using the pruning shears of revision. That's what he called them. We come into a new state of being when we re-envision. Being, okay, we come into this new state of being as it becomes a state of deep awareness beyond thought. It's a sense of connection with something larger than yourself. We know that when we move from those lower frequencies of shame or guilt or frustration or anger, the things that are so easy to pull out of situations, and this is mild compared to trauma, but the same principle, it's still pretty traumatic to lose a job, but the same principle is at work. And this connection is cultivated through mindfulness and stillness. It's the practice of becoming aware of what needs to be pruned in your garden of life, what needs to be cut off in the past. And this can be done for past, it can be done for present situations. You might be in a present situation where you realize something needs a shift because you're having these conflicts or something, in the present with it can be with a child, it can be with a parent, it can be with a coworker, it can be with a friend, and it's the same type of scenario. If there's anything in your now that needs pruning, do it the same way. See the shift in your mind. Don't judge the person, don't judge the situation. Rewrite it. And where you want to push back and where you want to judge and where you want to be angered, just see it totally different. See yourself not only receiving the affirmation from someone, but affirming others as well. You can use the same type of scenario for another person. I am just personally have been learning that in the last year, because I've been used to understanding how to do it for myself. But I realize we can do this for other people as well. We can do this for our children. We can do it for other people. If you can be in a situation that just doesn't seem to be right. We have when Ed was in, you all know this. Well, most of you know Ed was in for heart surgery at one time a number of years ago, and actually one of his it wasn't his doctors, but one of the people attending him was a man who would come in with his surgeon all the time, and he was the one that came in with regular visits, checking and all that at the time. And we got talking to him, and we found out that he was from another country, one of the former, what we call the East Bloc countries, and that he was in that country a heart surgeon. But in our country, he's not able, because of our laws, because of how whatever is happening in Canada that isn't accepted. He was just an assistant. And both Ed and I, our hearts just went out for him, because he was such an amazing man, so clear in his assessing and in his communications and caring for both of us, to explain properly and also to give the best care. And I realized as I was putting these thoughts together for tonight that I can take this situation for him and see his situation turn around. That's how powerful re-envisioning is for yourself, for people that you know, and for even situations like this. When I had this conversation with somebody, and they said, "Well, is how do you know if that person's a believer?" It doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter. Our Christ consciousness is not because we're not getting together because we all are in the same religion, believe exactly the same way. We're coming together because Christ consciousness, there's a call to consciousness right now and to a place where we stop dividing ourselves. Because I have such a deep belief in the goodness of God that when we're in a situation like where Ed and I were with this person, it's not about their belief. It's not about, did they respond to an altar call? Our God is good, and he loves every one of us. He doesn't see the difference. Jesus didn't see the difference. So, yeah, I just wrote myself a note. I saw this. I think it was on Facebook or somewhere. It was a little meme that talked about the the election and it says for a bird to fly, it needs two wings. And I realize how we are so divided. We don't think about a government in the same way because we think in Canada liberals or conservatives or New Democratic, whatever we separate, right? But uh, for like in the US right now, it's going to need two wings. It's going to need a bird being able to fly, because if it's only one wing on the bird, it's going to keep going in circles. And we need to somehow bring everything in our hearts together, knowing God is good. So when we break free from identification with the mind, we can connect to a deeper consciousness. And as we're learning, just like when you learn how to ride a bike, you can get on a bike. You may not have learned, like decades ago you learn, but now you can get on a bike anytime. You might be a little wobbly at first, but you can still ride. And it's the same for for reprogramming in our revision of something. Living in the now allows for transformative and peaceful experience that transcends day-to-day worries and challenges. So in essence, whether an event is affecting us was in the past or whether it's an intention for the future, we bring it all into now by our thoughts, and we can envision and, if necessary, line up with the frequencies of love, joy, and peace. Well, how do we do that? Well, it's like the gardener that prunes the plants to promote healthier growth. We can prune aspects of ourselves to remove what no longer serves us. And this practice of self-revision gives us nurture to our life that becomes more aligned with our true intentions and goals. And we have the ability to cut off, to reshape past events in our mind, to create a new perception. This ultimately transforms our emotional and energetic response to these events, and it changes our frequency. Rather than being stuck in what we might think is an unchangeable past, we use the power of imagination to rewrite memories or experiences that have caused pain, resentment, or limitation. We need to remember that we are unlimited. Our perception is incredibly powerful. The way that we interpret our experiences creates our internal and external reality. By revising memories By reimagining painful situations in a positive light, we shift our perception, which in turn affects our present emotional state and our future actions. Practicing revision helps release old emotional patterns, and it frees us from the constructs and the constraints of past hurts and misunderstandings. By letting go of painful memories or resentments, we create a space for new opportunities, healthier relationships, and an uplifted state of being. These shears of revision are based on a principle that our consciousness is inherently creative. By the way we view our past, it can shape our present reality. By consciously reviewing and rewriting past events, we align ourselves with a higher, more harmonious version of life, and we create a mindset that fosters healing and growth because we don't give our mind over to the trauma or to the negative. And this pruning can be applied in a day-to-day situation, especially when you find yourself stuck in something. You might be in regret or resentment. Just taking a few minutes to mentally revise an interaction or event in a positive light can help dissolve negative emotions and create a more constructive path forward. So, in summary, we have the power to create peace, love, and understanding in our life by transforming how we relate to past. By revising our memories, we are not only altering our emotional reality, but also aligning with our potential for growth and inner freedom. And this can be a daily exercise. As a matter of fact, there are people that recommend that this is something that we do every day, like review your day, review your life. Think about your day. Were there moments where your thoughts or behaviors were unfulfilling or confrontive or just plain stagnant? And these might be outdated beliefs, a limited or limiting assumptions or automatic reactions that hinder our growth. But identifying these areas is the first step to a healthier inner garden, that garden within. When we identify what needs pruning, we can use the shears of revision to let go with courage and clarity. When we learn to do this, that it becomes easier, honestly, because the step requires honesty and willingness to release attachments to habits or mindsets that feel familiar but they're limiting. By doing so, we make space for new possibilities. Imagine something that's been tormenting you or troubling you or keeps resurfacing, and you deal with it by pruning or revising. Think of the time, the space that you have for new creative possibilities. Pruning isn't only about cutting away, it's also about nurturing new things. When you replace what you've removed with thoughts, actions, and beliefs that support your well-being, and then you will align. When you do that, you will align with your true values. And just as a prune plant directs energy to healthier branches, redirect your focus to nurturing qualities that empower you. Life is constantly changing, and so are we. Practicing regular revision, checking in with yourself, assessing what's working, making adjustments, keeps you on a path of continuous growth and alignment. So each thoughtful cut with those shears shapes a clearer and more authentic version of who we are and allows us to grow closer to the best version of ourselves. Okay, I know that was a lot of information to try and get us to revision. But I hope it's challenged you. I hope I realize I didn't go to a speaker view here and we're all in the room, but that's the way it goes. And anyway, I hope that tonight, if this is a new concept, be happy to talk about it. We can change what's happened. We can change the effect of it, and actually, it ends up not being as though it wasn't there. As no. How are you doing?
Well, Helen, I'm doing great.
Oh,
This is
good.
exactly the answer to a question I've been asking for several months. How do you rewrite your history? And there's a lot of things I've done that helped in that process, but you made this so clear. And it's like while you were talking, I had this ticker tape running at the bottom of my screen. How about this? How about that? How about this? So I've been making little notes. Yes, Lord, that too, that too. And I can't wait to apply what you just shared with us to change, change that past. And I'm super excited. Thank you so much. This is a gift.
Wow. Thank you, Karen. You're a gift. That's very encouraging. When I learned this, I just needed to put it hopefully in a clear way to share it. So I hope it was that it was shareable.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We can change.
Well, and I think the aspect that we can do that for other people too, like for children,
Yeah,
because as a mom, you know things that happen to your kids,
yeah,
and I'm like, wow, I'm not powerless over those things now. I'm
right.
powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's very interesting when it when when we want so much for especially our children, right? Especially for um my I, I was sharing with our Ed's brother passed away a few weeks ago, and his youngest brother and sister-in-law stayed with us for that weekend. And my sister-in-law's name is Ruth, and we were talking, we were catching up. They live in BC, and we don't see each other that often. And we were talking about this exact thing because she has a granddaughter who was adopted 18 years ago from another country, and I have an adopted daughter who was, excuse me, adopted from birth as well. And some of the challenges of children, and they don't have to be adopted children. There just seemed in our conversation a lot of parallels that we were asking God about. We both take these things to the Lord, and at the same time, you go, what is it that we can do to be the best for somebody else? And at that time, I read this story about a king. It's just a little tale about a king who got two eagles, and he brought them into his court, and he asked, the eagle looker afters to look after these eagles, and they were there for years. And one day, that one of the eagles, they want to let them go, and so they let go. One eagle flew away, but the other eagle didn't. And he put out this announcement to the whole kingdom to say, there'll be a great prize for somebody who can tell me how to let this eagle go, because the other one's already gone. And all the wise men tried, and nobody was able to do it. And then this one farmer came up and said, "Well, I know how to do it, King." And of course, the king's delighted, and asked what to do. And he said, "Cut off the branch, prune the branch." And when they did, of course, the eagle could fly. And so we laughed about that because how many times in our children's life have we made it comfortable, and the and all it would take is to prune the branch, and then the eagle can fly. I don't know. Did anybody need to hear that? Gina, your hand is up.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, that was good. This is right along the vein of what I've been experiencing in my times with Father. And I'm coming to realize, and me meaning really to actualize real eyes with my real eyes, to see and to perceive and to conceive that my identity in my memory of things was misdirected. So as I responded to certain things in a memory, let's just say, I responded in a particular way. And I have come to, because of that, I've come to believe that that's who I am.
Mm.
And it's not true.
Right.
Because when I look at a memory and see how I responded, or see what happened, or see how I felt by that memory, it shaped who I think I am. And I've lived with that because that's who I think I am. But when we come at this whole process with remembering who we really are, forget the memory for a sec. You have to go back there anyway. I don't mean forever. But to remember your true self, then you go back with what that really is. And I think, okay, well, what's the who's my real self? What is my real self? My question then is, what is my desire in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
That's my real self.
Mm-hmm.
What I desired to have responded in, what I desire to respond now to certain things, that's my real self.
Right.
That's my higher self. That's my sacred self. So then I take that, which is a different person, a different seeing of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Take that back to that memory.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I respond in a different way because I realize with real eyes and see it for what it really is, that I responded in a way that was my lower frequency,
Right.
which I thought was me,
Right. Right.
which is not.
Right.
So it's easy then to prune it because it's not even true. You see it now as a branch on a tree that's completely dead. Like, who would leave it there? Like, really? It's half falling off. Hello.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
rip it off. It's done. It's producing nothing.
Right.
So when we remember who we really are
Yeah.
by spending the time in the silence and in gratitude, the whole picture changes.
Yeah.
Our whole life changes.
Yeah.
We aren't that person.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I think, okay, because of the desire, because if I can get in touch with the desires of my heart, that is my real self.
Right.
Take that then
Mm-hmm.
to the memory bank and see what you can,
Right.
withdraw.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
your higher and sacred self version of yourself is allowed then to arise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it changes
Exactly.
your response to the memories. And I think this could be a really beautiful way to deal with trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
and those things that we hold
Yeah,
and belief systems that we think, oh, well, I can't have that because blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. What's your desire?
that's right.
And if your desire is that you would like that, then that is your higher self. Take that remembrance of your identity to that thing and then look at it and see it. It's how we see, it's how we perceive, it's how we conceive a thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's what I'm learning.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I gave an example. I didn't use an example of um I think everything that happens to us in the negative is a form of trauma.
Mhm.
I didn't use anything very extreme, and I know that there are people sitting that will watch this that have had that may say, well, you don't understand how severe my
Mhm.
situation is, which is right, unless you've been in it. I mean, people with post-traumatic stress and victims of abuse and that. No, we don't. Not everyone does. But surprisingly, when you let it, when you do a pruning and a revisiting of these things, and you don't come at it with judgment, then you take the first step into freeing yourself because you are no longer a victim. You become a victor. And as you allow your own self, your higher self, to
Yeah.
see your worth, and even though it seems like a play acting, when I say recreate the story, so that that even doing that starts to change you because you bring in the positive emotions of it, and it does change the situation because the situation then becomes powerless.
Yeah, another way to look at that, not that you're recreating the story, you're looking at the same story from a different perspective.
That's right.
You go to a different corner of the room and watch it.
That's right.
You see it
Absolutely.
in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're,
The thing is,
totally
we are we
reworking it
are
or something.
we are recreating from the inside, so it will manifest out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the only way we can actually do that um, is, I mean, the only reason we should do that is because we're trying to get in touch with our higher self, with the actual desires of your heart.
Yeah, and live from that place.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's sort of important. It's not like I'm changing the facts.
Right.
It's I'm looking at them from a higher frequency
Right.
to see then what my higher self would have done and go ahead and just do it.
Right.
And it
Exactly.
changes.
It's so good. Those are such good thoughts and comments. Thank you for
I
sharing.
love the non-judgment part that you bring up because that is so key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think we stay in our lower selves because we're not happy that we responded in the way that we did. We're not happy with the outcome of the whatever was memory.
And
Why?
and you
Because
beat
we
yourself
we
up.
judge it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, we don't need to ask for forgiveness. We need to just forgive
That's right.
ourselves
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
So there it is again, another way to see the thing, the situation, the memory, the whatever, from your higher self in love, not in judgment,
Right.
not in self-judgment, but in absolute love.
Right.
And if you love yourself regardless and forgive yourself and thank you
Right.
in gratitude,
Yeah.
with no judgment, wow, you see the whole thing in a different way.
That's right. Absolutely. 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 I remember when just recently when I was dealing with something with forgiveness, and father said, "Why do you think you need to forgive?" And he said, because for you to come to that place in your heart, you have had to judge him. Why don't you just rest?
Mhm.
And I went, yeah, unconditional love gets easier and easier if we can just rest and be. Lana, you've been waiting a long time. Thanks, Gina.
Gina's covered it all.
Yeah.
Oh, that was very good. And I think that you've given us a key, a very valuable key to move on from places where you don't even realize you've been stuck. Yeah, I was just thinking about, well, just little things, Karen, like you were saying, oh, there's that. Oh, maybe that. And anyways, it was just I was just thinking about how I have been in judgment and probably kept everybody tied up in the situation because of my judgment of something. So, like I can deal with that and move on. So it's wonderful.
Yeah. We are learning step by step by step. It's yeah. This
Yeah.
is a
But
great
it's
place where, I feel so I feel so loved by God, but also by a community like ours that we can live step by step. Like it's not like it's a race to the finish line. And some of the things are easier, harder than others. And we are in very interesting times. And I'm grateful for each yeah, I'm grateful for the prunings, I'll tell you that, for the revisioning, but that it doesn't come at us like a wave. We can take one step at a time and watch the results.
right.
I too am so grateful for the grace
Yeah, there's a lot
that
of
we
grace on.
have in this community. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
If we didn't, what a not a very safe place
yeah,
it would be, right? So
totally,
thank you,
totally,
everybody.
totally. Yeah, I echo that. Thank you, everybody. Hi, Debbie. Are you on a phone?
I really like the uh, what you said about being able to take another person there. And that is so exciting because this week I was dealing with something and I just thought, Lord, what's the root? What's the root, of this person who seems so wounded and in pain and, her reactions. Uh, and you want to be able to help them, so I was really excited about this, to be able to do this reconstructing and move it in to this particular person. And
That's
thank you, really
um,
blessed by that.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, we have the thank you for sharing that. I'm not surprised you carry so many people in your heart already. You're beautiful. And it really it's also so freeing when you realize this isn't a religious thing. It's not a denominational church thing that we're talking about. These are everyone is a child of God, and we are connected whether we like it or not. And I think it's a whole lot better to just like it, enjoy it, embrace it, and give the world a hug. Debbie, we haven't forgotten you.
No, can y'all hear me?
If we can, yes.
This is really interesting because I had a big example of this happen to me today. And to just back up just a little bit, the first how the Lord started teaching me about what you're talking about was I was sitting right here one day during it was like a spring day. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And I had this recurring thing on my mind that's been going on it has to do with the company. And it keeps coming around every so often. And it was one of those times when this was back in my life, and I was sitting just gazing out the window, and I saw a big dump truck that was not sitting, it was sitting like this, not, it was vertical, not horizontal. And it had the back gate on it dropped open, and it just, all this stuff just rushed into the sea. And it was a yellow truck too. And I heard the Lord say to me, stop the storyline. And I, with the picture and the whole thing, the feelings, and then hearing that, I mean, I got it instantly. It put me instantly in the understanding that I live with this company by a narrative in my mind. And so anyway, this company comes around again today, this morning. The whole scenario's, it's an ongoing thing, because we're in relationship in a business thing. So it's a periodic type thing. And so anyway, it started up again today. They contacted me today, and I felt myself kind of freeze like, because I knew I was going to be, facing some new issues and things like that with this company. And long about the middle of the afternoon, it hit me like a ton of bricks that I was in the narrative. Lots of times you can catch yourself during the day very quickly and so forth, but this must be a deeper thing with me. Anyway, when I caught myself in the narrative, I did some intention type things, like I'm going to have a grateful attitude about this. I'm going to grow from this situation. I'm not going to get underneath it or bogged down or whatever. So I had some good intentions and all that kind of stuff going on. And and looking at it as, okay, this is something that's in my life. It's recurring. I have improved my behavior around it, but I need to get out of this trap that I'm in, this because I realized I still had a narrative of kind of, the narrative now is I don't want to deal with it all. I don't want to mess with it. It's a hassle. It's, and so I've been kind of with the Lord today, doing what you were just talking about, bringing it into the present, letting the emotions be, seeing it from a broader perspective, and all those kind of things. And it's just amazing to me how when you do that it changes the form of what you're dealing with.
Right.
And so by the time it was late afternoon, and I wasn't doing this continually all day, it was just as I had time, I would think about it and so forth. And by the end of the day, I had made friends with this thing that has been a ball and chain for 15 years, and made friends with it in a way that I hadn't before, because of that broader perspective, because taking a step back, observing, letting it be. And when you do all those things, it no longer is the weight and chains that the Lord says tie us to this world that so easily beset us. And I could feel that raising of my whole state of beingness, because that weight is being removed. That weight in that chain is being removed. And when you feel that that upliftment, because our spirit's already ascended, we're just pulling it down with the weights and chains that we so easily beset us. And so I felt that little ascension of, and of course we do ascensions and that type of thing, but I mean, that ascension is a real thing. I mean, we are ascending as we let these weights and chains be dropped from us, as our perspective changes, and our whole state of beingness gradually changes into the higher frequencies. And it takes these
Mhm.
trials, tribulations, whatever we want to call them, it takes that for us to be, we don't grow without it because we hang on to the weights and the chains. But anyway, I've gotten to a point in my walk where when I hit crescendos like this, I'll tell the Lord, now I really want this to be a turning point in my life where I'm not just playing around with it, trying to get through it for the day. I want it to produce in me the fruit that we're talking about that occurs when we embody our true spiritual self, because that's already complete. We just keep pulling it down. And but anyway, it's interesting that you bring this up, because I mean this was my day today. And I hope that I did feel that shift that we feel. Of course we have to practice and we have to maintain that, but definitely there's a huge difference between the way that I perceive it and interact with it and process it than just a couple of years ago. The awareness is what absolutely, the awareness causes it to not be there anymore.
Right.
It's a strange thing. I don't know how to explain it, but once that awareness comes in, you're free of it at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that you've hit on some really key points in your testimony here. And as I'm listening, I'm realizing that if we didn't understand the inner workings of our consciousness, that we are our Christ consciousness as we're doing it, that it would seem like we're changing other people, but what we're doing as well, right? Because that's what's happening. We're creating space for other people to change. And that's such an amazing thing that happens when our own hearts are in the right place.
Yeah.
in God.
That's good. That's a really good way to put it. And it is that all you have to have is a little bit of a space.
Yeah.
But you got to have just a little bit.
I
And
know.
you can just relax into yourself.
Right.
And it creates just that little bit of space where the whole thing shifts.
It does. And isn't that the privilege and the delight of living from our sacred self rather than living, just in 3D?
Right.
Yeah.
That is. Yeah.
So cool. Wow. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
And I also think that you've given us an opportunity to like for me to engage with regard to my kids, my adult children, of course, but I think at different times I've felt like if this was the life they chose, and like can I intervene? But in this way, like it's something that's already in the past. I'm not making decisions for them. They've still, like, the scenario's played out the way it's played out, right? But I can still go back and yeah, it's a new level of freedom and an opportunity where I haven't felt like I had not a say, not that I needed to have a say, but I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Well, in the pruning or the visioning
Yeah.
of something, right? What we do is that we deal with ourselves in it. We deal with that. And what that does is it creates the space for change. Whereas change, where it spiritually, that's held, that it's like there's a marker holding things in place. in a way that was created that isn't healthy necessarily. And so what we do in this pruning, in this revision, is we remove the effect of that. And when you do, then there's freedom for all parties to align. And
Right.
and that's why we see what appears to be someone changing their attitude to us. And they don't even know, because it's all good. It's not like we're insisting on something to happen. We're just making room for the goodness of that person to emerge. And when they come to us in that way, we can embrace that, because then good meets good, right? Love meets love. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's
good.
becoming less complicated and more loving.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Susan Snowski, I want to ask you what you're thinking.
The thing that's really hit me is exactly what Lana was just talking about. And then a little bit about what Deb said. I realize that when I'm going back, and I've done this before, going back and changing, but not with exactly this vocabulary. And I just realized from what Deb said about loosing the chains or lifting the weights, I've been experiencing that a lot, but finding myself not as free as I'd like to be. And what I just realized was I've been afraid to be that free.
Oh,
It's almost like if I could have controlled how fast it lifted or where it went, and that's just a dimension that's come to me, that I need to be able to freely be free
come
and
on.
not try to do like inch along towards the edge. It's like, I
Right.
want to pull the gate on that dump truck and let it all out of here.
Right.
And instead of letting it trickle out, because what am I thinking? It all has to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've just been thinking about that. And the same way with the influence, that I think the word that came to me when Lana was saying, what's my influence in that situation? Like, what am I doing that's coming from me, actually from Christ consciousness through me, that's going to release that dimension, and that's going to change everybody.
It does.
It just changes everybody, and just everybody, not all at once, but it flows out, and it's that influence that
Yeah.
makes a positive change for everybody. If one person, that would be me, takes the step to
Exactly.
do it. And I'm just taking this in. I've been doing some Joe Dispenza work because I'd like to go to one of his intensives. So I want to get all of the prerequisites done. So probably in 5 years I'll go. And one of the things that I've been working on is just what you've been talking about tonight. And I just love that, for me, you moved me to the other side of the room and let me look at what I've been doing under a microscope. And now I'm able to look from across the room and see the bigger picture. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great perspective. And as I'm listening to you, I'm realizing how much room we make for our world. We're looking at it still fine in a finite way, because we're looking at cause and effect. But the fact is, in the field of where everything's possible, that isn't a small area at all. That's busted wide open, the whole quantum principles of what we're learning. So I'm happy to take the small steps with you.
Yeah. Although that doesn't mean I'm not wanting to dive into the void every chance I get. And then I was afraid for a while that, oh no, you'll be in so far you'll never get out. And then I thought, oh yeah, that's the point.
That's right.
So, okay, now that I know that, I'll
Yeah.
just jump right in.
Yeah. I am that little drop in the ocean that wants to
Yes.
be the ocean, the end.
Yes, yes. And in fact, I am the ocean as well as in the ocean,
Right.
We are the sound of many waters, and
Yeah.
because I am. I know it comes around and comes around just to a
Yep.
lovely place, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Thank,
This is a lovely place. I just have to say to all of you, this is a lovely place. Thank you.
yeah, it really is. Thank you. And there's my Plank family who make it lovely as well.
Got the man's here too.
Hello.
Well, welcome, Todd.
I made it just in.
We missed you.
So I love this discussion. It's just what everybody has shared has been so impacting. And of course, it makes me think of the near-death experiences and the life reviews where
Yes.
but where we get to do that now, instead of wait till we're out of this body, we get to see things from the highest perspective and see from that realm and let the weights go. It's just amazing to me. How even as we work through these things and we don't have these weights and these things holding us down, like, wow, what's next? What will be next?
Yeah.
You get to step into just greater and greater, whatever it is, this beautiful unfoldment. And also, I was thinking, as it's the higher consciousness that heals.
Yeah.
If I be lifted up, I draw all men to myself. And
Come on.
yeah, it's just, it's beautiful.
Come
Gosh,
on.
yeah. Oh, how amazing that we get to just like open up
Yeah.
and be ready. And now I also think about years ago, when we were ascending and learning all these new things, and we were learning new things, but it's like now we're really like stepping in and it's changing us.
Yeah.
We're unfolding.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're beginning to live it. Right.
Yeah.
And I know that we're a lot further along the road than we think we are, but it feels like we're just learning to live it. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm fine with that. One of the expressions this week that really hit me, I knew it, but it hit me, is that we're living in eternity now. We don't go into eternity, right? We're in it. Too late, guys. However, yeah. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
Something that's been happening to me is it's like it unfurls within the midst of you, and then that flows out, and that becomes your steps forward.
Right.
But it's an unfurling from within us.
Right.
And you don't have to figure out your steps or understand it. You just have to be with that and allow it to be without the resistance. Because we, just like Susan was saying, fear is a huge resistance that I have. And I really didn't know I had all this fear until, recent years. But that causes so much destruction and pain and disease in our life, and it prevents us from it's all about letting go of our own self, that we can embrace life. And life just unfurls if you're not in there trying to manipulate it, and we try to make everything on the outside be okay so our insides will be okay. It's got to match up. This has got to work out this way. This can't, all these perimeters that we have, and we're all the time trying to, make everything on the outside be okay so we can be okay on the inside. And it's just the opposite of that. If we let go of that, then it just has that life within us just starts unfurling before us. And the challenge to me always is to stay, in the present moment. because if you stay in the present moment, all this, it just life unfurls and happens you're just entangled, married into it. It's not work or trying to make it work. But I don't know why it's so hard for me just to stay present, stay awake and present to the very moment. It's kind of like I look at life as this is a block for me, blocking me from getting to where I'm trying to go. But that's what life is living what at the one moment to the next moment to the next moment to the next moment. And I seem to think that that's an obstacle of getting to where I'm trying to go.
No.
And I just realized that I a couple of days ago, the very thing that I'm trying to kick out of the way is what I need to be aware of each and every moment.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
You got it.
It's because I have, I need to get to this, I need to get to that, and that needs to be done, and just like the Lord tells us, don't take account of all that. Don't worry about all that. And one day, I walk in the evenings, and one day I was on my little trail that I walk, and I was coming around the corner, and it just hit me because I used to argue with the Lord about that scripture about take no care. You see that the birds, they don't worry, the flowers don't, all this, and just absolutely have no care. And when I was coming around that corner, it's a little bit of a hill. It was like this panoramic thing just opened up, and for that split moment, I got what that scripture means. And now I know that that's how he intends for us to live every day, without any care, any worry, any concern. The birds know they'll be fed. They know God. They know they'll be fed. The flowers don't toil. Y'all know the scriptures I'm talking about. But anyway, it was, when we experience God, even if it's just for 15 seconds, that makes all the difference in the world. You can hear scripture and somebody teaching you and all that. But if you have that moment of direct spirit to spirit experience, it changes your whole perspective.
Yeah.
And for that moment, I got hold of that, and I think of it very frequently. I'm not able to live in it all the time, but I do. And when I think of it, I experience what I experienced emotionally and what I felt.
Right.
So it puts me back into that moment where it opened up to me. And, I love that because, anything that we've experienced in the Lord like that, any kind of direct experience like that, we can go back into that and blossom it out, expand it out. And I think that's kind of how it gets incorporated and integrated within us to become, what our state of being is. But it's those moments of experience. That's why, we talk about meditation all the time and quieting ourselves down and being conscious of being in his presence, because all those things for me produce an experience, not every time, but quite frequently. I think the Lord loves to give us that, just that little divine touch, or that, but I think it just happens naturally if we put all of our attention on him in the present moment, because we're swimming in him.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're in eternal life. We're in resurrection life.
That's
and
right.
if we just take that moment to be centered within ourselves, and as we get those few little experiences, that draws you back. Draws you back, because it's it's just glorious. So
Well, I have just writing this as you're talking. I have a t-shirt message for you.
Okay.
It's going to say, "Now is a good place to be."
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for sharing, Debbie. That's
Yeah.
so lovely.
Yes. Thank you.
Am I talking to Todd now?
Well, I just wanted to share one quick thing and then Todd. Debbie, it's like the sun is always shining. And when you remove the clouds and the things that block it, it's always he's
That's it.
always flowing. He shines on the just and the everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, so I love
Yeah.
that. There was
That's
something
it.
to say. Yeah. Oh, maybe it'll come to me while Todd's sharing.
Oh, boy.
That's good.
Well, I wanted to thank you for tonight. I've got a very good memory. It's getting a little harder as I get older, but like Elizabeth used to ask me, "Hey, what month was it that we got Jen's first wheelchair?" And I could map back and just in my head, because I used to fly all the time, I just kept a calendar in my head, and I could, oh, that was March of 2003 or whatever. And that's a gifting until it's something that really hurts you.
Yeah.
Because I have a very vivid imagination and memory. I see in the Lord speaks to me, and I realize it's Him speaking to me a lot. But I'll be in just going about my day, and I'll be reminded of a scene in a movie, and it helps me kind of just put it in context. And that used to be how I do emotions. I'm like, oh, that's like in that show that one time when that guy got upset about that. But I realize sometimes when I'm going to use the Old Testament, building a monument to something in trauma is what we tend to do. And for those of you that are therapists, please forgive me for my layman's terms, but I know when I go back there and I revisit it and I stay in the pain, which is easy for me to do because I can remember the details too well. I feel like it just came to me tonight that I'm just adding another stone on the monument to the pain and not the lesson, to the test and not the testimony. And it just came as you were talking that maybe I can see it so well so that I can go back and see what I've been missing because I was focused on the feeling come not as much, not nearly as much, especially in the last couple of years, but the emotion, the feeling, the cortisol dump, the smell sometimes, just the weight of it. It was like I was right there again, just reliving it. And all I was doing was adding stones to a monument. And that's not what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
And so going back and revisioning it, I was actually in the kitchen when you were saying revisioning, and it kept sounding like you were saying when you do religion, this is what happens. And I realized, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm good at that. And then I realized she's saying revision. And so now I'll go back with that gift and reuse it. And I mean, we have a friend, a mutual friend, Dale Sides, who he did a ministry where he would walk people back to the traumatic incident, say, okay, now where's Jesus in the room? Tell me where Jesus is, and then ask Jesus what's really going on. And that worked for him. And I tried that a couple of times. I'm like, I do not see him in here anywhere. All I remember is, so I put another stone and I went, okay, I'm not ready yet. But my breakthrough for tonight is I realized I haven't been putting stones anymore.
Nice.
Not nearly like I was. And it helps when you stop going, okay, I'm going back and I'm going to remember it so I can forgive that person, which in me, like you, was judging first. They shouldn't have done that. That wasn't fair. That wasn't right. That's just building a monument. And when I go back now and I go, okay, they were hurting. I don't need to understand why they were hurting, but he does. And I can look at them again through your higher self and how she sees everybody. I mean,
I know.
if you don't mind me sharing your story about the homeless guy near your workout place. She has such a heart. She sees this guy there all the time and she talks to him. And one day he looked up at her and I mean, I can see it in my head. I wasn't there, but I can see it. With a dark look on his face, he said, I'm not a good man.
Mm.
And I immediately got, that was the sanctified part of him warning you not to go beyond what we would call wisdom, right? That was she didn't feel a threat in it. And I don't feel like he said it in a threat, but I think there was a part of him going, don't get too close. And that could have been the broken part of him, but I do believe that might have been the sanctified person coming through the tormented part in the moment, just saying, I appreciate it, but I don't want to hurt you. And I said, so just listen with both ears on that.
Yeah.
And my radar has always been the other way. I'm like, oh, that can be danger. That can be danger. That can be danger. But I'm getting more like her where I can go, okay, I can remember the last time somebody actually threatened me. It de-escalated so quickly. I think I've shared it here before, but I was ready to physically go one way. But I was praying as I walked into this confrontation because he had 3 people cornered. And I think he had a psychotic break or something and was menacing and threatening these people. And I put myself in between them. And he wanted to take a swing at me and was cussing me up and down. And I'll tell you, there was a lot of ego going, okay, say this, say that. But I finally just went, okay, Lord, you take control because I don't want to go to jail today. I don't even want to go to court over this. And I just looked at him and I said, why? And his countenance changed. All the tension dropped out of the air. And he said, you're right. This is my problem, not yours. And he reached out his hand to shake my hand, which I thought might be a threat. And I was prepared if it was. But I took his hand and there was no tension in his hand whatsoever. There was no aggressiveness. It was completely gone in the moment with one word that I got from the Lord instead of what was flying through my head as, boy, wouldn't this make a good Arnold Schwarzenegger line or something, but I'm learning more and more to do that. And now I can go back to those places of real pain, emotional pain that I wasn't equipped to deal with at the time. Don't love revisiting. But I'll go back and revision. So thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, that, there is a time for everything under heaven, isn't there? I mean, just there's so often we are given keys to things that we need to unlock in our life at some time. But if it's not now, it's okay.
Mhm.
And I love how you put the building the monument. I'm a visual learner, and I thought, yeah, how many times have we kept the monument stabilized so it's the wind won't gonna knock this one over. I like it. It's staying, isn't it pretty? To our own detriment. And I just pray that we all have courage when the time is right to step forward and rewrite the script and allow for that space of freedom to come in so it stops biting because it can't with the space, right?
That vicious cycle
Yeah,
and all the reaction, all of that gone,
yeah,
clear, clean, pure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's for us.
And we don't have the arguments in the shower with the person that in the torment or when you're out for a jog, those are the times where things are just free range.
Yeah.
Our
Imagine,
mind.
right?
And then what that does, it leaves a space for creativity, and for the new, and for the future that we can live from, rather than be shackled to the monument in the past. Yeah.
Yes.
That was a really good one, a good analogy, Todd. Thank you. Wow. Whoops. I almost lost everybody here.
No more shackles.
No more shackles. No.
Name it,
No.
no shackles.
Yeah. So Abraham, nice to see you. You came in an hour into our meeting. Are you okay?
I'm blessed. Yes, I
Glad.
am.
Good.
Um,
Did you
good
have
to be here.
a note?
Actually, I was about to just go to and read my book in bed and meditate, do what I do probably. And then it dawned on me, it's Wednesday. So I ran into the office here, and I recalled, I think it was yesterday, how I was wishing that it was today. So we could be in the meeting instead of trying to, I was looking at the election returns and all, and you know how that stuff goes,
Right.
right? So, you know, but it, I came in late in the conversation. I'm picking up the gist from what has been shared. It's good to live in a place from love.
Yeah.
We could live from a place of fear. I mean, those are the two basically default, either fear or
Yeah.
fear-based living, or a place of love.
Yeah.
And Sunday, unexpectedly, we had to put one of our dogs down. He jumped off the bed, injured himself, almost fatally. And Dotson, been in the family for nearly 15 years. So I have a heavy heart, and then Monday, you're dealing with it. My wife is really, emotionally. And so I go to what I know, I take solace in the fact that, you know, that I could sit quietly, meditate, get the hope, the joy, the compassion, the trust that I have with the relationship I have with the God of my understanding, and but our natural, I think it's the human default to allow. All you have to do is just have a little crack. No matter how much illumination you might have, there might be a shadow, or in this case, let a little bit of fear come in, and life rushes in, and all of a sudden, you empty yourself um, from that love, or jump off the beam, as I like to think of it, fall off the beam. But the thing is, the more we practice living out of the place of love, the place from the heart, it's you change the default that I think that is natural in the human being, which is to think of the negative, to think of fear, that you're not good enough or whatever. You're not going to conquer. That you're your feelings sometimes. So yes, and I think we were talking about discernment last week. You know where to go to get the love that is required for you to receive, flow through you and flow out. And it's all from within. It's an inside job. It definitely is an inside job. That door swings inward. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so rewarding to have that relationship. And
Yes.
I love the fact you said, I don't approach it from a religious point of view. Religion to me is realignment. Actually, I think that's the real root word. If you do the etymology of the word religion, is realignment, rearranging. And it's that rearranging, the connection between people, the connection between you and God, and your connection with self, your true self. Because that's the problem. That's what fear is, right? When we are associating ourselves with our false selves, where, we think that it's never going to be enough. I'm never going to feel, this or that's going to bring me the happiness. But I'll leave it there. I was just glad to be here. I could have just listened and be in good company. Thank you for being here tonight. And shucks, I'm glad. I hated that I missed that hour, to be honest.
Well, it'll be on the website tomorrow. So if you want to
I'll
catch,
tune in. I'll tune in. That's for sure.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And you had a good weekend with your little one.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes. My granddaughter Penelope's her name.
Awesome.
Yes, she's just amazing. 2 months and already she's like so vivacious and oh, I'm loving it. Yes, it's a
Good.
new chapter.
Good. Like, we can see it in your eyes.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, how's everyone doing? Thank you for sharing tonight. I felt I hope the complexity of this came out a little bit more simply. If you've been listening to it for the first time, we can change our past, and we can create our future. It's taking it step by step in our understanding, so that we can truly live in the now of eternity, like that. That's as simple as it gets, right? As simple as it gets. Well, it's absolutely lovely. I don't want to cut anyone off if you have something you want to share. But we've had a great discussion, great conversation. And on the 20th, which is not next week, but the following, I've invited Laura C. Does everyone know who Laura is? So she's coming on. I'm actually starting a little. It's a little side hustle here for our normal meetings, and I'm just calling it the conversation. And where I'm going to bring on people like Laura, so that we can just be in conversation. And then if it's on a Wednesday night like this, then we will have access to that person for questions and input from our room, from our community here. So I'm looking forward to that. She and I had a great conversation the other day, and I think we will learn a side of Laura that will absolutely delight you, and and I'll share a little more of the testimony when she was here in Winnipeg with us, so that we have a history together. It's quite lovely and very powerful. So that's happening. And
Is Laura the woman that was the worship?
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's beautiful. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, it is. Yes, she is very beautiful, and I'm glad we can time it with a Wednesday night meeting. So there we are. All right. Well, I just want to say that the Lord bless you and keep you. He will make his face to shine on you, be gracious unto you. You'll lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his shalom, his peace, nothing missing, nothing broken. And I love you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Helen.
Thanks,
And
Helen.
that's